Hey, it's Mark with your video thought for the day. Another week, another chance to go through 5 books of the Bible, given about 4 minutes or so to each book. Now, I'm filming this from Seoul, South Korea. And yesterday, Becky and I went to the demilitarized zone. And we were able to explore 4 of the tunnels that the North Koreans had dug. Supposedly, there may be up to 20 more, but they had been dug back in the 60s and 70s to launch a simultaneous attack upon Seoul. Seoul is the capital of South Korea, and Seoul is an amazing city. I mean, it's huge. At this point, it's got skyscrapers galore. It's got a incredible subway system, some of the greatest people we've ever met, a really cool set of churches there. And it made me think, imagine if your hometown had been sieged and was in ruins and your people had been scattered. What would you do? Well, this is the challenge that was faced by Nehemiah. And so today we're going to look at the book of Nehemiah in 4 minutes. Start your clocks. Nehemiah was a man whose faith and leadership not only rebuilt the walls of his hometown of Jerusalem, but rebuilt a nation's spirit. And we see that in this book. In overview, this book has Nehemiah, who is a Jewish cupbearer to the Persian king. And as he's learned of the hometown of his ancestors, Jerusalem's destruction, he begins to pray fervently, and he gets permission to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the walls. Now, he goes there. There's a lot of opposition to what he's doing, but despite the opposition, Nehemiah rebuilds a tentative set of walls in just 52 days. And then he turns this laser beam focus onto spiritual and social reforms, trying to renew the people's covenant with God as best as he knew how and as best as he understood it. Now, this whole setup is set within the context of the what's called Postexilic Period. So we're talking maybe 445 BCE. This is after the exile of Judah into Babylon and after the Persians have taken over from the Babylonians. And it's the Persians that allowed the exiled Jews to return and rebuild their homeland. And you can't do that back in that day without rebuilding the walls. Walls were critical not only for security, but they gave some measure of national identity. So in final point, what are the key themes of Nehemiah? Well, one is the importance of prayer and dependence upon God. Prayer changes things. 2, the importance of courageous leadership, not just being a leader. Now, leadership doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's something that you've got to affirmatively seek to do. You should seek to be a leader in your family, in your community, among your friends. And that takes courage at times because adversity often is in the face of leadership. 3, overcoming opposition. That's got to be done in a godly way, and it's got to be done by the power of God. But we should never let opposition to God's will stop us from pursuing his will. And then 4th and finally, this idea of spiritual renewal and social justice. So important especially for us today. Now, if I were to pick a memorable verse out of Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah, I'd pick Nehemiah 2:17. That's where it says, "Then I said to them, you see the trouble we're in. Jerusalem lies in ruins. Its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace." So here's your call to action. Nehemiah saw a need and he took action. What things around you are broken that need rebuilding? Might be relationships. It might be communities. It might even be part of your own life. But like Nehemiah, let's start with prayer and then act with courage and perseverance, because God can use you to bring restoration and hope to those things broken around you. That's Nehemiah. It's a story that reminds us that with faith and prayer and perseverance and determined action, we can overcome great obstacles and be part of God's plan to build and restore. A great book and your video thought for the day.